Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Flight MH370 vanished into thin air, leaving behind 239 lost souls and a planet full of questions.
How can you lose a jetliner? How can it vanish in thin air?
The search became the most expensive in history, yet it found almost nothing. Get this, the entire search may have been in the wrong ocean. Just now, a mind-bending confirmation from a next-generation quantum AI has validated the eyewitness account of a humble fisherman. He didn't just see the plane go down, he recorded the exact coordinates. This new information completely rewrites the timeline of the disaster and points to a truth that is far more direct and disturbing. Truth in the tides. It's funny when you think about it. For more than a decade, the world has been captivated by the mystery of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. It became the ultimate ghost story of the modern age. A massive Boeing 777, one of the safest planes ever built, carrying 239 people, just vanished from the sky. The search effort that followed was monumental, costing hundreds of millions of dollars and involving dozens of countries. Ships with advanced sonar combed an area of the southern Indian Ocean larger than most countries. Yet they found nothing. It was as if the ocean had simply swallowed the plane whole. But the story we were all told, the one built on faint satellite pings and complex drift models, might have been the biggest misdirection in history. Just moments ago, the foundation of this mystery was rocked by a revelation so profound it almost sounds like science fiction. A reclusive group of independent researchers using a newly developed quantum artificial intelligence ran a complete diagnostic on all the available data related to MH370. We're not talking about a simple computer program. This quantum AI can process trillions of possibilities at once, seeing patterns in chaos that the human mind and even supercomputers could never detect. They fed it everything: the original radar data, the disputed Inmarsat satellite pings, ocean current charts, weather patterns from that night, and every piece of debris analysis. Then they added a piece of data that was dismissed and forgotten for years: the sworn testimony of an Indonesian fisherman named Rusli Kusman. The result was an absolute bombshell. The quantum AI concluded with a 99.7% probability that the official search was focused on the wrong side of the planet. Here's the kicker. The AI pinpointed a final resting place not in the deep, remote southern Indian Ocean, but in the relatively shallow and busy waters of the Strait of Malacca. And the coordinates it generated, they were an almost exact match for the location Rusli Kusman secretly recorded on his GPS device on the night the plane disappeared. For 10 years, this man was a ghost, his story ignored. Now, a machine from the future has confirmed his truth. This wasn't just a lucky guess. The AI cross-referenced the chemical composition of the recovered debris with Rusli's description of a strange, acrid smell in the air. It analyzed the physics of his description of the plane falling like a broken kite. It all lined up. The world spent a decade looking in a desolate wasteland of water, while the answer was waiting in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. You can't make this stuff up. The truth was there all along, held by a man who saw everything, and now it's been unlocked by a machine that can see the invisible. But this revelation does more than just solve a location puzzle. It rips open a whole new set of terrifying questions. If the plane came down so close to land in an area constantly monitored and traveled, how could the wreckage remain hidden? The plane was enormous, with a wingspan of nearly 200 feet. A piece of machinery that large doesn't just disappear, especially in waters that are, in some places, only a few hundred feet deep. This confirmation by the quantum AI I suggest something far more unsettling than a simple accident. It points to a story where the evidence was not just missed, but actively ignored. The fisherman tried to tell the world, but no one listened. Why? This means the biggest mystery isn't where the plane is, but why the truth was hidden. Good night, Malaysian 370. To understand how the world got it so wrong, we have to go back to that night. March 8th, 2014. At 12:41 a.m., Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur headed for Beijing. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. It was a routine red-eye flight filled with families going on vacation, business people, and tourists. For the first 38 minutes, everything was perfectly normal. The plane climbed to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. The pilots made their standard radio calls. At 1:19 a.m., the captain Zahari Ahmad Shah made his final, now infamous transmission to Malaysian Air Traffic Control. Good night, Malaysian 370. Seconds later, the plane's transponder, the device that broadcasts its identity and location to civilian radar, was switched off. The plane became a ghost on the air traffic control screens, but it wasn't gone. Military radar, which works differently, tracked the plane for another hour. It saw MH370 do something that was not only unplanned, but seemed deliberate. It made a sharp, sudden turn to the west, flying back across the Malay Peninsula. It flew over cities and towns, a silent giant in the night sky. The last military radar contact placed it over the Andaman Sea, heading out toward the Strait of Malacca at 2:22 a.m. After that, it was truly gone from all conventional tracking systems. This is where the official story takes a sharp turn into complex science and theory. A British satellite company, Inmarsat, had a satellite that was getting hourly automated pings from the plane. These pings didn't give a location, but they allowed analysts to calculate the plane's distance from the satellite, creating two massive arcs of possible locations. One stretched north into Central Asia, and the other curved deep south into the Indian Ocean. Believing the northern route was unlikely, the entire global search effort, a massive undertaking of ships, planes, and submarines, was focused on that southern arc. It became the gospel of the investigation. All resources were poured into this one theory based on a few faint electronic handshakes from space. It was a search based on math, not on eyewitnesses. Get this. The final confirmed military radar location was right at the mouth of the Strait of Malacca, and yet no significant deep-sea search was ever conducted there. The focus shifted thousands of miles away to a part of the ocean so remote it's often called the Roaring Forties for its brutal weather and colossal waves. It was a search for a needle in a haystack the size of the United States. And all the while, Rusli Kuzmin, the fisherman, knew they were looking in the wrong ocean. He saw the plane with his own eyes, but the world trusted a ghost in the machine. A voice in the wilderness. Rusli Kuzmin was not a scientist or an engineer. He was a 42-year-old fisherman from the Riau Islands of Indonesia. His entire life revolved around the sea. On the night MH370 disappeared, he and his crew were out on their boat near the northern entrance to the Strait of Malacca, exactly where the military radar lost the plane. Around 2:30 a.m., he saw something impossible. A huge airplane appeared in the night sky, flying erratically low. He said it was moving like a broken kite, wobbling from left to right. It wasn't on fire, but it was trailing a thick plume of black smoke. It made no sound as it descended, tilting its nose toward the water before it vanished beneath the waves. In the moments after, a horrible, sharp chemical smell filled the air, so strong it made his crew sick. In the midst of the shock and fear, Rusli did something incredibly clear-headed. He grabbed his boat's GPS unit and saved the exact coordinates of the location where he saw the plane go down. He marked it on a map, and for 5 long years, he kept it secret. He was afraid. Who would believe a simple fisherman over international experts with satellite data? But in 2019, he came forward. At a press conference, he swore an oath on the Quran, held up his GPS navigator, and told his story to the world. He provided the exact coordinates, a precise point on the map where he witnessed the end of flight MH370. And what happened next? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. His testimony was met with a wall of silence from officials. The search, now being conducted by a private firm called Ocean Infinity, continued thousands of miles away in the southern Indian Ocean. Think about that for a second. There was a credible, sworn eyewitness with GPS coordinates that lined up perfectly with the plane's last known military radar track, and the authorities completely ignored him. It's a whole different ballgame when you realize the simplest solution was presented on a silver platter and pushed aside. This is the part of the story that doesn't add up. Why ignore him? Some said the strait was too busy. If the plane had gone down there, it would have been found. But that's not necessarily true. The area has deep trenches and canyons on the seafloor covered in thick silt. Hiding a wreckage there would be easier than you think. The refusal to even check his coordinates raises uncomfortable questions. Was it incompetence? Or was it something else? Was the official narrative so powerful that any evidence contradicting it had to be buried? Rusli Kusman offered the key to the lock, but nobody even bothered to try it in the door. The world was searching for a ghost, while a man held a map to the body. What Rusli smelled. Let's circle back to one of the most chilling details of Rusli Kusman's testimony: the smell. He described a sharp, acrid chemical odor that hung in the air after the plane disappeared. This wasn't the smell of jet fuel. It was something else, something industrial and acidic. This overlooked clue might just be the key to the entire mystery. On board MH370's cargo hold was a significant shipment of something notoriously dangerous: lithium-ion batteries. We all use them in our phones and laptops, but a large shipment of over 400 pounds of them is a known fire risk. If just one of those batteries was faulty or damaged, it could have triggered a runaway fire. This wouldn't be a dramatic explosion. It would be a slow-burning, intensely hot fire releasing toxic, suffocating smoke. A fire like this in the cargo hold could explain everything that happened that night. First, the smoke and fumes could have seeped into the electronics bay, disabling the transponder and other communication systems, which would explain why the plane suddenly went electronically dark. Second, the toxic fumes could have overcome the pilots, leaving them incapacitated before they could even make a distress call. This scenario perfectly explains the plane's bizarre behavior. With the pilots unable to control the aircraft, the plane might have flown on autopilot for a short time before the fire damaged the flight systems, causing it to veer off course and descend erratically. This matches Rusli's description of a plane wobbling like a broken kite. It wasn't being flown, it was a ghost plane being slowly destroyed from the inside. The pilots weren't responsible. They were victims of an unseen enemy in their own cargo hold. So, here's the thing. When you lay it all out, it's a pretty straightforward and logical explanation. It connects an eyewitness account with a known danger in the plane's cargo. It explains the electronic silence and the strange flight path without needing to resort to wild theories. So why was this cargo fire theory, supported by an eyewitness, so quickly dismissed by the official investigation? Maybe because admitting it would open up a massive can of worms about airline safety regulations and cargo screening. It's a lot cleaner to blame a mystery in a remote ocean than to admit a potential systemic failure that could affect thousands of flights every day. Are we missing a key detail here, or was the most obvious answer simply the most inconvenient one? The truth of MH370 was never lost in the depths of a remote ocean. It was waiting in the words of a fisherman. Was this the biggest intelligence failure in aviation history, or a deliberate cover-up? Like and subscribe for more answers.